Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and I'm very pleased to announce our interim result for 2017. I think that we should mention this is a forward statements, so this is a disclaimer everybody should read. And then the next slide was talking about our missions. I think, as we said earlier, our company mission is try to build up a profitable services in combined with sustained product development for significant shareholder values. In first half of the year, I think our net revenue grew 53% to £19.5 million. In comparison, first half of the year in 2016, this is 12.7. Excluding acquisitions, the revenue is up for 36%. The gross revenue is up for 31% to £22.9 million. In comparison, first half of the year in 2016 is £17.6 million. The gross profit up to 42% to £7.5 million. In comparison, the first half of the year in 2016 is £5.3 million. Adjusted EBITDA before the R&Ds is £2.9 million. In comparison, the first half year in 2016 is £1.9 million. After R&D, hemostatic expenses, which is £1.8 million, it's a flat with the same in comparison first half year of 2016 is £1.8 million as well. Our cash in hand at June 30th is about £2.4 million. In comparison, same period last year is £9.9 million. On the service side of it, you can see, this is slide number 5, our clinical research services is growth 21%, and then our pharmacovigilance growth is much faster. The organic one is 56%. If you include in the acquisitions, the growth is about 96%. Next slide. On operational highlights, and this through July 2017, we signed a new contract which is about £23 million. Our current contract backlog is about over £17 million. In comparison, last year is £60 million, so it's about 17% growth. And this period, Peter George, the former CEO of Clinigen, has been appointed chairman of the company, and myself has joined the company since July 1st as a CEO. And also we have a multiple milestone for the product developments. Next slide, we talk about a co-development update. I would like to introduce my colleague, Andrew, to give an update.
Hello, thank you, Dan. Andrew Mackie here, Chief Business Officer. So as many of you know, we run a shared risk drug development model. What that means in reality is we offer to provide our services at a discount with certain partners in exchange for some upside of the longer term value of the product. We have 4 active partnerships ongoing at the moment across 5 trials. And slide 7 gives you a brief update of the current co-development partnerships. We've had movement in both directions in the portfolio. Earlier this year, Aeterna Centaurus reported that their phase 3 study read out and the treatment did not show any significant benefit related to standard of care, and therefore they have decided to abandon the development of that drug. Leading up to that result, we had received a few small milestone payments from them as they entered into marketing partnerships, but we do not anticipate receiving any further milestone payments on that program. In the other direction, we announced in February positive phase 2 data from our collaboration with Ferrer, where this new sleeping tablet hit both the primary and many of the secondary endpoints. So this study was considered highly successful. The product is now being discussed internally in Ferrer, and they are seeking to explore partnership deals with other companies to help them develop the product in the US and into phase 3 development. If this product continues in development, we will receive a share of any milestone and ultimately royalty payments and sales milestones and sales which the product makes. We heard good news from CellSci in August. This product had been put on clinical hold whilst CellSci discussed with the FDA certain features of the product. However, this clinical hold was lifted in August, and now this study can proceed. So we're very pleased with that. The study is fully recruited at 928 patients. So as an outcome study in head and neck cancer, this study is now, we're just monitoring the patients to observe the final outcomes. And finally, our 2 co-development partnerships with spinouts from the Karolinska Institute. Modus Therapeutics is in recruitment phase. It has passed several interim safety analyses and is continuing nicely. And we hope that the study will complete in the first half of next year. And Asarina Pharma, our newest partnership, is in preparatory stages, and we're hoping that the first patient will enter in the first quarter of next year when the product is ready. Moving on to slide 8, an update on our Hemostatics program. As you know, in 2016, we bought Hemostatics, a biotech company in Nottingham, that had 2 products in development for to be used to control excessive bleeding during surgery. The lead product, Peprostat, we acquired it as it was finishing phase 1. What we've done here is taken this product through phase 2, and we completed the recruitment in that in the middle of the summer. We were very pleased with the recruitment. The study went much more quickly than we had anticipated, and we're estimating now that this study will report next month at the end of October, bringing that data readout almost 6 months ahead of schedule. The second program, ReadyFlow, is in preclinical development. Again, we've had positive forward momentum with this. We've settled on a formulation. We've discussed the regulatory preclinical package with the authorities in the UK. We've agreed what needs to be done to prepare the product for entry into phase 1. So this program is now ongoing, and we hope to start the phase 1 studies in the second quarter of next year. So most important moment in the Hemostatics portfolio is really the phase 2 data readout next month, and we're looking forward to that. Moving on to slide 9, I'll hand over to my colleague Stephen.
Thanks, Andrew. Good afternoon, everybody. Stephen Stamp, Chief Financial Officer. Before we dive into the interim results, just one thing to point out, and that is we've slightly changed the presentation of our revenues this year. As a clinical research organisation, we incur certain costs which are deemed pass-through costs. Typically, for example, investigator fees. As a primary obligor for these fees, we include them in cost of sales, but we seek reimbursement of those costs from our sponsor partners. So we've broken those out this time in the revenue disclosure. So net service revenue gives you a better understanding of the underlying growth of the business. So the 19.5 million net service revenue for the first half of this year breaks out 8.8 from our clinical research services, 8.5 from pharmacovigilance company PrimeVigilance, and then 2.2 from our latest acquisition, PharmInvent, which we acquired in November of last year. So as Dan's already mentioned, 36% organic growth, 53% overall. We are delighted, frankly, with that performance. In terms of gross profit was 7.5 million, which is a 39% gross margin, compares with 42% last year, so a 300 basis point decline, brought about largely because of PharmInvent's inclusion, which has a lower gross margin of about 36%. Moving down the profit and loss account, in terms of other admin expenses, these increased 1.3 million compared with the first half of last year. That 1.3 million breaks out roughly 0.5 million from the inclusion of PharmInvent, 0.2 million from the inclusion of O&P, a small German CRO we acquired in June of last year, 0.1 from the opening up of new offices by PrimeVigilance in the US and Belgrade, and then foreign exchange, etc. made up the rest. R&D expenses were 1.1 million this half year, related to the controls manufacture of Peprostat raw material, the phase 2b trial of Peprostat, and some formulation work on ReadyFlow, compares with 0.1 of the prior year. And in terms of finance costs, we had 0.2 million. That actually wasn't interest, it was the unwinding of the discount which was applied to the deferred consideration of Hemostatics, the company we acquired in May of last year. Moving on to the balance sheet, there was a reallocation of goodwill from the previous half year, mainly Hemostatics, into intangibles. So we recognized intangible assets of Pepperstat, ReadyFlow, and cash at the end of the half year finished at 2.4 million. I'm pleased to say I think that will be the low point for this year. We've been building cash since, and we're now up at about 3.8, and I expect us to be around 4 by the end of the year. Cash was depressed during the half year through working capital outflow, largely as a result of an increase in trade and other receivables. So if we move to slide 11, I have a breakout of trade and other receivables, which at the half year were 11.2 million. Of that 11.2, our CoDevelopment partner Celsi was approximately 2.9 million. We'd actually billed them 3.2 million revenue invoices during the first half, but only collected 1.2. So Celsi accounted for almost in the entire working capital outflow in the first half. The clinical hold has now been lifted, they've raised money, and they've also issued us shares, so I would expect that position to recover in the coming months. In terms of news flow, Andrew's already referenced the first 4 items in 2017. In fact, the 5th item will be coming in the next few weeks. In 2018, we have another 4 clinical endpoints to report, being the initiation of the Azarina trial, the start of Hemostatic's Pepperstat phase 3, Modus phase 2 results, and ReadyFlow, the second Hemostatics product, being phase 1 ready. In the meantime, we've been actually working diligently on some acquisitions focused entirely on services, and I would expect us to get at least one of these over the line before the end of the year. And then of course we have some licensing opportunities with both Pepperstat and ReadyFlow coming. So at that point, I'll hand back to Dan.
Yeah, with our strategy going forward, we're still looking at 3 areas. We'll continue growing our business organically and then continue to outpace the market with double-digit growth. On the acquisition side of it, for CROs, we'll try to build up our global infrastructures, at the same time adding more specialist skills like orphan drug services as well as post-marketing surveillance services. On the pharmacovigilance side of it, we'll consolidate our European leadership and then also establish our global leadership as well with the expansion to US, Japan or Asia. On the product development side of it, we'll continue to license out our hemostatics and then also try to expansion our portfolios to 10 plus opportunities programs. I think that's all from our sides today.
Lovely. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Just as a reminder then, you can contribute questions by clicking on the button in the top right hand corner of your screen, but we've got a couple here, so we shall crack on. Why don't we start focusing with the CRO side of the business. Obviously you've got a strong plan to scale up the CRO business with acquisitions. How are you planning on paying for these, gentlemen? Who wants to take that one? Is that one for you, Stephen?
Okay. We don't have the ability to pay significant amounts of cash, our current balance sheet, but we do have the ability to raise cash through share issues. Obviously the price today is not what we'd like it to be, so that sort of limits our maneuverability somewhat, but issuing shares in consideration and having the vendor take those shares as consideration has two impacts on us. One is it preserves our cash, but 2, it also aligns the interests of the vendors very closely with Ergomed, which can be to our mutual advantage.
Okay, thank you. The sector, as we've already touched on, is seeing great growth in it. Are you having any problems recruiting investigators? Is there, a difficulty getting hold of good staff as the rest of the market also pursues this strategy?
No, I think it's we currently recruiting the investigator and the site have a stronger networks, and then it's easy for us to doing that one, and then deploy the trial, try to recruiting more patients for the studies. I think our strengths into the site support as well as the study support give us a more advantage to recruiting patients more faster than others, and then also on time, on budget as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we are very good at this.
Okay, let's loop around then to the co-development side of the business. As you increase the number of deals that you've done, and you gain experience, you also gain reputation and profile. Are you able to negotiate better terms as the reputation grows?
Yeah. Andrew, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yes, I think the better deal structures come from two reasons. One is, as you say, our reputation is growing. People recognize that this is a model we run. When we go to various partnering conferences, we are now approached by many companies who are interested in exploring this alternate route to help them develop their products. I think secondly, we've actually learned ourselves about how to structure deals, what's important, what structures work, what structures haven't worked. So we are constantly improving our deal structures and the types of features we want to include in future deals.
Okay, I mean, for example, with Asarina, you've taken a seat on the board.
Exactly.
Is that in response to CELSI and the, are there any other safety nets you're able to put in place to ensure that you don't end up down payments going forward? I mean, is this in response to that?
Well, it's not in response to CELSI in particular, but it's a response to observing how other companies continued the development, continued the commercialization of their product, where they had perhaps earlier monetization moments that they didn't take because they wanted to continue developing the products themselves. Now, whether this was the right or the wrong decision to make at the time, we weren't really engaged with the partner at that moment in time, and we felt actually we should be engaged in those sorts of conversations, having invested in the product. Therefore, it was in response to that we started folding these decision mechanisms in. So you can do it through several ways. You can do it through, as you've correctly pointed out, taking a board seat. You can also just do it through structuring the joint steering committees and having certain authorities on the product and how it's developed. So we are looking at a number of different mechanisms to secure our position and our investment.
Okay, lovely. Well, I think that's it this morning. So thank you again for your time, and we'll look forward to catching up with you in 6 months' time.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.